Part 62. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 611. Regarding Lan Bangxian's last words, Huo Tianyi was speechless. On the one hand, there are differences between closeness and distance among the strongest. King Huo Tianwang has a good relationship with Nightmare, but Nightmare is not suitable for taking action. On the other hand, Huo Tianyi knew that Lan Bangxian said he could call people, and he really could. You don't have this ability, you know? Come on, my upgrade progress is a bit slow. This time when he came to the 8th abyss, Huo Tianyi had another mission, to rise to the 9th level of God of War as soon as possible. Lan Bangxian is a little strange. Why are you in such a hurry to upgrade? Logically speaking, Huo Tianyi only needs to follow the steps step by step and go in a down-to-earth manner. In the future, a mighty God of War will not be able to escape. If you act too hastily, it will lead to bad things. It's impossible for Huo Tianyi not to understand this truth. Huo, what are you going to do? Blue Banished Immortal Sword frowned slightly and was slightly dissatisfied with his words. Among the first strong men of their generation, Madman Huo was the least clear-headed and made a mess every time. King Huo Tian wanted to trade with the great demon god for cheating his death, but Lan Bangxian could still endure it. After all, it would do everyone good to have this madman lying in a coffin slab. But if King Huo Tian has other plans, Lan Bangxian must know where the bottom line is. Rest assured. Huo Tianyi thought for a while and gave a strong guarantee. Nightmare knows about this. That's best. Leaving behind a few words, Lan Bangxian threw Huo Tianyi down and fell into the 8th abyss. And he, like a real swordsman, walked in the void, the sword box behind him breathing, and the power of the sword slowly increased. The sword behind Lan Bangxian has not been seen for decades. It takes 10 years to sharpen a sword, and he has been sharpening it for several decades. He was still waiting for a chance to draw his sword. 2 flowers bloom, one on each side. After Xuemeng and Lan Bangxian parted ways, they soon entered the 8th abyss. Shura's emotion sounded in Xuemeng's ears. Hey, I remember the 8th devil was still alive when I came here last time. Xuemeng. Who tricked the 8th demon god to death? Don't you have any idea? It would be a bit shameless to say that Shura killed the 8th demon god alone. But if Ye Bai hadn't forced his third awakening and hit the 8th demon god in the face, the other party wouldn't have died so easily. If Wu Hen wants to cut from the 7th abyss to the 8th abyss with one sword and kill 2 demons in a row, his own losses will be huge. From this perspective, Shura really made great achievements. Of course, what is the relationship between Xuemeng and Shura? Xuemeng didn't even need to thank Shura for saving his father. Whatever Xuemeng had in his pocket, Shura took it as he liked. Anyway, nothing left. And regardless of whether Xuemeng is willing to give it or not, Shura can take it if he wants. The entire abyss was filled with pink mist, making it impossible to see even one's fingers. Compared with the chaos before, the 8th abyss is now quiet, without the murderous shouts that shook the world. Due to the death of the 8th demon god, the abyss is now ownerless. After the first wave of chaos, all powerful monsters began to digest their gains, fight for the origin of the abyss as much as possible, and aspire to become the new 8th devil. After entering the 8th abyss, Xuemeng asked, "What should we do first?" Looking for Poseidon. Ye Bai's attitude was very clear. Since I have signed a contract with Poseidon, I must fulfill it. His reputation as Shura cannot be ruined. Find Poseidon first, and then plan the next step. The main purpose of this trip is to help Poseidon become the 8th demon god, an 8th demon god who can be controlled by humans. Soon, Xuemeng found the hiding place of Poseidon along with clues according to the message that Poseidon had previously conveyed, and prepared to visit him. Wait a moment. Shura actually walked out of the shadow on his own initiative. Ye Bai said. There are a group of demonized demons around here. I'm going to collect some demon soul fragments. Ah, aren't you meeting Poseidon? Xuemeng was a little confused. Why did he change his mind again? Ye Bai said seriously. You go meet him alone first and find an excuse to beat him up. In the 8th abyss, the most threatening person to Ye Bai is none other than Poseidon. No matter from the perspective of the overall situation of the human race or Shura's personal safety, there is nothing wrong with this decision to weaken Poseidon first. Xuemeng quickly figured out the implications and readily agreed. After Shura left, Xuemeng felt more relaxed. What reason should I find to beat Poseidon? While walking, Xuemeng pondered this issue. Didn't say hello when we met? Step out with your left foot? Why wear a hat? These reasons can be used. But the problem is that Xuemeng is a person who has escaped from vulgar taste. Xuemeng, who had seen Shura gather wool many times, not only saw pigs running away, but also saw pigs being killed. He had a bold idea: should he take Poseidon's wool for once? The joy of shearing wool. Xuemeng felt happy just thinking about it. Thinking of this, Xuemeng couldn't help but speed up his pace. Brother Poseidon, look who is here to see you. Xuemeng released his aura, and the outline of a middle-aged man soon appeared in the fog ahead. For Poseidon, who successfully defected to the 8th abyss, half of his plan was successful, no, more than half. The fog dissipated, and the appearance of a middle-aged man appeared in front of Xuemeng. There is a trident between his eyebrows, and his head is full of long blue hair. He looks quite majestic, like a god. Just with this temperament, Poseidon is already far ahead of other monsters. Xuemeng, did you come alone? Poseidon was a little surprised. Where is Shura? Didn't the news I received earlier say that Shura and Xuemeng were coming together? I'm here today to discuss a win-win deal with you. Shura beat you until your teeth are all over the floor, and you don't even blink. No matter how shameless Shura is, he cannot pretend to be the adopted son of the strongest. Moreover, from the perspective of Poseidon, Xuemeng is very suspicious. No wonder Poseidon was too vigilant. Xuemeng's words just now were too Shura-esque. Poseidon hesitated for a moment and asked tentatively. Poseidon hesitated for a moment. I'll help you become the 8th demon god, and I'll charge you 200,000. You want me to give you a discount of 20,000. He wanted to cut the price. Xuemeng hit the hammer hard and roared. Then, how do you prove it? Xuemeng had no choice but to use his trump card. Xuemeng. Xuemeng was so angry that his teeth itched. I can hit you to death with a hammer. Does this count as proof? Yes, Shura had a record of instantly killing Su Qingfen before. You deserve to be defeated by Shura. Poseidon is very strict. Then you are indeed Xuemeng. If Shura succeeds in his cultivation, it would be normal for him to be able to kill a 9th level god of war like me instantly. I dare to kowtow to my second father. Is that okay? Wait a minute, I am really Xuemeng. Xuemeng opened his mouth and said, Old Shura. It doesn't count. Can I lose 20,000 god of war merits? After confirming his identity, Xuemeng proposed a win-win plan. He would help Poseidon, and Poseidon would pay him a small reward, 200,000 god of war merits. How do I know if the human race will tell Shura about this? Xuemeng was anxious. Shura, why do you have to transform into Xuemeng to tease me? After a moment of silence, Xuemeng exploded. Poseidon immediately frowned and said dissatisfied. Azura gives you 5 million god of war merits, which is not too expensive for you. Listening to this familiar saying, Poseidon shook his head again. This time, Poseidon finally nodded. Xuemeng thought about it and proposed another method. What about the IOU? Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 612. Xuemeng hit it with a hammer, and Poseidon flew out like a kite with its string broken. Xuemeng didn't use all his strength with this strike. Otherwise, Poseidon would be really beaten to death. The seriously injured Poseidon walked back on his own initiative after being sent flying by the hammer, and said coldly, "There's no need to go to all this trouble to beat me up." Xuemeng sneered and said, "Is it that obvious?" Poseidon nodded. "It is clear. If Shura's wool-picking skills are said to be extremely proficient, they are at the level of the strongest. At Xuemeng's level, I'm afraid even Su Qingfeng can't catch up." Although Xuemeng looks simple and honest, he has a good point and is not ashamed to ask questions. "Then in your opinion, what should I do to make it more natural next time?" Poseidon: "Of course it would be best not to do such an immoral thing. The most hateful thing is that you not only do it, but also ask the victim if there is any room for improvement in the technique. You might as well learn Shura, learn from yourself without a teacher, and become a talent by yourself." Poseidon sneered twice. "Actually, with your strength and identity, you can just grab it?" I snatched it. "It's not interesting." Xuemeng is also very frank. "Besides, my upbringing is strict, and my father doesn't allow me to rob the devil casually." Poseidon was speechless again. "Don't grab it casually. Does that mean that when it's not casual, you can rob it? Your family is so outrageous." Fortunately, the awkward chat between the two did not last too long. Soon, a figure appeared on the other side of the fog. "Clean up the surrounding demons and collect the soul fragments." Shurayu touched Poseidon and was hammered, so he wandered back. This place is an abyss after all. Yabai has been away from Xuemeng for too long and has no sense of security. There are thousands of roads, safety comes first. Wool is harvested at any time, life is the most important. Only by keeping in mind the 20 mantras can Yabai move towards becoming stronger step by step. "Hey, long time no see. Are you starting to build the Demon Emperor's palace?" Yabai glanced at Poseidon. Although the opponent was injured, it was mainly flesh and blood injuries. Xuemeng didn't attack too harshly, and Poseidon hit a little deep. Obviously, the Poseidon who escaped from the Eternal Temple is not that simple. According to the information Yabai knew before, the first batch of Abyss demon gods, except for the original demon gods, were all gods who defected from the Eternal Temple. Although, these guys are a bunch of unlucky people. But among these unlucky guys, there are obviously old acquaintances of Poseidon. In other words, after Poseidon came to the 8th abyss, he not only became the spokesperson of the human race, but also secretly reached a deal with the abyss demon god. Eat both sides? Thinking of this, Yabai's steps paused slightly, and murderous intent overflowed from the corners of his eyes. The human race does not need a too powerful 8th demon. The abyss of disunity is the best abyss. Poseidon was refreshed, understood immediately, and spoke first. "It's the 5th demon." Before Shura could ask any questions, Poseidon sold his teammates directly. "The 5th demon god knew about my deal with the human race, and took the initiative to send a batch of resources to help me recover. I have already reported the relevant matters to the human race." Huh. This time, even Yabai was a little surprised. He has seen a lot of bastards. This was the first time Yabai had seen a dog-legged person become a Poseidon. However, after thinking about it, it makes sense that seabed organisms have relatively developed soft tissues and no bones. Poseidon was particularly kind and dispelled Yabai's murderous intention. The 5th demon god has been seeking death all year round, not just every day or two. Whatever troubles people, he chooses to do it. Leaving aside the 5th demon, Yabai walked in the mist, with Poseidon and Xuemeng following behind him. Have the foundations of the Demon Emperor's palace begun to be laid? Yabai stood in front of the construction site and said seriously. Why don't you give the order to build the Demon Emperor's palace to us humans, and I promise to help you build a Demon Emperor's palace that is easy to attack but difficult to defend. Poseidon. God is under the roof and has to bow his head. Poseidon could only nod in pain. Okay, when I get back I'll ask Lord Wanwu to place an order. Yabai didn't go too far. He snatched the order with just one sentence. If he continued to suck blood, Poseidon might jump over the wall. The Wanwu Pavilion transaction is his bottom line. Xuemeng, who was watching the harvesting of wool, exclaimed that it was so satisfying. He couldn't help but feel doubts. Why is it that when you watch Shura gathering wool, he always seems to be doing it with ease, but when you do it yourself, everything always goes wrong? It can only be said that Shura was ahead of an arrow when it came to shearing wool. Several people walked deeper. The construction of the Demon Emperor's palace is extremely important to the demon god. It not only established the pattern of the abyss, but also determined the upper and lower limits of the abyss demon god in the future. Here, there are not only upper and lower limits of combat power, but also realms. For Poseidon, he can accept his own level of combat power being stretched, but he cannot accept that his potential is threatened. After all this effort, Poseidon's ultimate goal is to reach level 1000 and ascend to the upper world. Even if he is Su Qingfeng, he still wants to be Su Qingfeng of level 1000. Both sides know this. But under the supervision of Wanwu Pavilion, everything will be fair. In the past, Poseidon was very disdainful of Wanwu Pavilion. He is a majestic god and the top being in the world, but he still wants to deal fairly with others. Joke. Until Shura appeared and Poseidon discovered that the gods had become a joke and the pavilion of all things had become a life-saving straw. Nothing is ever more permanent than this. Walking to the deepest part of the Demon Emperor's palace, a tattered throne appeared in front of Yabai. This is the demonic throne of the former 8th demonic god. The Poseidon spent a lot of effort to snatch it from the monster. Interesting. Yabai glanced at the Demon Emperor's throne. It was carved with countless skeletons and various patterns of unknown meaning. It was chaotic and without any sense of art or beauty. Just took a look. A hoarse, ancient voice sounded in Yabai's ears, full of temptation. Come on. Sit up, this abyss is a gift to you, you can ascend to the upper world at any time. Sit back and you'll have everything you want. You want money, you want Xueju to be resurrected, you want Yingju to be alive? I can help you achieve it. The moment this hoarse voice appeared, countless red prompts popped up in front of Yabai's eyes. Alarm! Alarm! It's him. Dante answer. These red reminders filled Yabai's vision, covering the throne and isolating Shura's influence as much as possible. The most powerful demon god relies on the throne left by the 8th demon god to exert influence on Shura. Under the mask, Yabai's eyes were red, his face was flushed, and veins popped out on his neck. Fighting against the temptation of the most powerful demon is not that simple. Moreover, Yabai cannot rely on any external force, he can only rely on himself. Even the most powerful trump card in the past, the SSS level talent, is powerless at this moment. However, this was not Yabai's first experience. In order to calm down, he had no choice but to show his true skills. Just listen to Yabai whisper. Xuemeng owes me 0.1 Wanwu Pavilion. Xuemeng owes me 0.2 Wanwu Pavilion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 613. Xuemeng owes me 0.3 Wanwu Pavilion. My heart suddenly calmed down. It was as if he had entered the true sage mode, with his mind as calm as water and immune to any intrusion. Shura's condition suddenly became serious, but he suddenly recovered as before. Before Poseidon could sigh, a sudden strong wind blew him away. Boom! There was a loud noise, and with the demon throne as the center, countless spider cracks spread, tearing the earth apart. The prototype of the demon emperor's palace that had been built before completely collapsed at this moment. The entire eighth abyss was clearly shaken. Smoke filled the air and rubble filled the ground. Call! Xuemeng let out a long breath and dragged back his bloody sledgehammer. He was sweating all over his body as if a valve had been opened. Just taking advantage of the opportunity for Shura to escape from the bewitchment of the most powerful demon god, he seized the fleeting opportunity and Xuemeng hit the demon emperor's throne with all his strength. This hammer smashed open the entire midsummer. Without the interference of the most powerful demon, Ye Bai came back to his senses, as if a drowning person had been saved, and cursed angrily. Grass. TNND, you are playing tricks on me, right? Ye Bai never expected that he would just take a glance at the demonic throne of the eighth demon god, and the most powerful demon god would seize the opportunity and bewitch him. This is not the first time Ye Bai has dealt with the most powerful demon. But this is definitely the most dangerous one. In the past, Ye Bai is surrounded by top-notch combat power protection, and Xiaoao is stationed on the Eternal Tower. Last time, when the Abyss of Power opened, Ye Bai followed Wuhan honestly. Even if there are some negative emotions, it doesn't hurt. But as Ye Bai's strength grew, the security forces around him not only failed to upgrade, but were downgraded. Only then did the previous scene appear. Under the superposition of various factors, Ye Bai and the powerful demon god once again fought in the air. Even thinking about it now, Ye Bai was still a little scared. Ye Bai sighed. Narrow victory, narrow victory. Fortunately, I am more skilled. After coming out of the psychological shadow, Ye Bai looked forward, and a huge pit appeared in front of him. Under the influence of Xuemeng's full blow, the front seemed to be flattened. Everything that can be eliminated physically has been eliminated physically. If Su Qingfeng stood on the edge of being affected, he would probably be killed instantly. Hiss. Seeing this horrific scene, Ye Bai couldn't help but take a breath. You call this a bit fierce? This is so fierce. After taking action, Xuemeng smiled, hiding his merit and fame. Small scene. Ever since he had two powerful adoptive fathers, there were only a few enemies in this world worthy of his full strength. The fifth demon god is willing to fight Xuemeng to the death. But Xuemeng is not stupid. Bullying a fool like the fifth demon god is nothing. If you have that time, you might as well buy yourself some melon seeds to eat. Kindness without saying thanks. Ye Bai Genji said solemnly. The debt you owed me has been written off. Ye Bai didn't want it even if he said he didn't want it, a huge sum of money worth 2 Wanwu pavilions. Very generous. Xuemeng? I don't owe you money in the first place, right? At this moment, Xuemeng suddenly felt itchy and wanted to hit Shura with a hammer. While the two were chatting, Poseidon, who was in a mess and weak in breath, rushed back. His expression was extremely complicated, his eyes were filled with resentment, like a bitter gourd, and he said nothing. Xuemeng had a small fight before, and Poseidon suffered some skin injuries, so the incident passed. Who knows? The most powerful demon god intervened, forcing Xuemeng to attack with all his strength. The residual power affected Poseidon, and in turn seriously injured Poseidon. Where does this make sense? More importantly, after this blow, the meager wealth that Poseidon had accumulated before was completely ruined. Start from scratch. It doesn't matter. Ye Bai patted Sea Cucumber on the shoulder and comforted. We have reached the bottom of the valley. No matter how we go, we are always going up. Although Poseidon did not know the meaning of this sentence. But it doesn't always feel like a good word. Brother, Go out for a walk and relax. Yabai sent Poseidon away again. It's about the most powerful demon god. If Poseidon were to listen in, he would always feel like something was strange. Poseidon will be a demon god in the future, and in terms of camp, he can be regarded as the younger brother of the most powerful demon god. Poseidon came and went. Xuemeng looked at Yabai and said, "Uncle Lan is on his way." Suddenly, Shura and Xuemeng solved the problem again. The speed at which Lan Bangxian arrived meant there was no need to be in such a hurry. I didn't expect that I would get such a surprise when I first came to the 8th abyss. Yabai smiled bitterly and shook his head. No matter how much you overestimate the strongest demon, you will eventually find that you still underestimated the opponent. The previous most powerful demon god had been meditating in the seal, and his sense of existence was not strong. 100 years may be as long as a nap for the most powerful demon god. The strongest men of the human race kept emerging, and fought with him for 30 years. But in just 100 years, the most powerful demon god felt threatened. It is precisely because of this that his movements also became more frequent. This sneak attack may be just an appetizer. In the foreseeable future, the frequency of fights between the two sides will only become more frequent, and the intensity will continue to rise. For Yabai, this is definitely not good news. Yabai could withstand it once, twice, or even 10,000 times. The most powerful demon god doesn't matter. As long as Yabai fails to hold on once, all previous efforts are in vain. Yabai can win countless times, but the strongest demon only needs to win once. This thing is so evil. Yabai felt like he was being targeted by the final boss like a hobbit holding the Lord of the Rings. The problem is, Yabai doesn't have any countermeasures yet. Think of something fun. Xuemeng saw Shura's distress and enlightened. I recently met a new brother. He is a very nice guy. I will introduce him to you some other time. Yabai. Do you want me to tell you that your brother is my apprentice? Yabai asked casually. Is your brother rich? Xuemeng? Oops. Introducing brother Yeju to Shura, isn't this a deception? Poor, so poor. Xuemeng quickly made amends. Look at my memory. I will introduce you to my brother when he is richer. We must not let brother Yeju follow in his footsteps and walk into the huge pit of Shura. Cherish life and stay away from Shura. Yeju followed the Dream Master. It was good. Why do you want to introduce Shura? Mouth is short. Ignoring Xuemeng, Yabai looked at the big pit ahead and began to think about a question. Why is Xuemeng so fierce? It should have something to do with talent. Yabai asked Xuemeng this question before. As the adopted son of the most powerful man, Xuemeng still had something in him that he couldn't directly see through. Otherwise, why is it called Danyan? When you encounter the most powerful person, it will be a big mess. Yabai finally understood that one of him or Tanyan must be at fault. Being idle is also idle, Yabai asked casually. Big Menzi, how talented are you? What is your name? Well, my talent is pretty good. Xuemeng replied casually. All things are unified. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 614. All things unified. Yabai was very interested and urged. Expand your story. Without going into detail, I would have thought that Xuemeng was just talking nonsense. Certainly. Yabai believed that Xuemeng did not have such evil intentions. Being idle now is just idle, just like spanking a child on a rainy day, just for fun. Actually, it's just a simple SS-level talent. Xuemeng was not embarrassed and said generously. When I use my talent, I can superimpose all the skills I have mastered and release them as one skill. Yabai. Damage, special effects, buffs, everything stacked together. Are you crazy? You call this an SS level talent? Ye Bai suddenly discovered. It seems that Tan Yan is not the Su Qingfeng in the SSS level talent. How could you insult Su Qingfeng like this? Who can defeat Su Qingfeng, a normal 8th level god of war? Ye Bai originally thought that Tan Yan was just trying to pull off the SSS level talent. Who would have thought that now he can't even compare to the SS level talent? Xuemeng's talent was unexpectedly strong. It's actually not as strong as you think. Xuemeng saw that Shura had misunderstood, and patiently explained. While the unification of all laws is taking effect, I need to bear the consumption of all skills, which puts a heavy burden on myself. Xuemeng was originally a swordsman. According to what he said before, he learned more than 30,000 swords from his adoptive father Wuhan. If these more than 30,000 swords were combined into one sword, his Ye Bai couldn't count how many times he sucked in cold air. Just thinking about it makes me feel terrified. However, according to Xuemeng, if he wanted 10,000 swords to be unified, he would probably not be able to bear the price. Ye Bai suddenly reacted. Wait a minute, your father doesn't let you use a sword. Is this the reason? Is that so? Xuemeng was stunned. He made a fist with his right hand and smashed it into the palm of his left hand. He suddenly realized. So that's what it is. Ye Bai. Just watch the Fool Master for fun, but if you are really a fool, you also want to watch Xuemeng. Come, eat melon seeds. Ye Bai dug out 2 bags of melon seeds, and the two sat on the ruins, eating melon seeds and chatting. Then according to what I say, you can perform sword skills with a hammer. It's possible. Xuemeng explained. The power is less than 1/10 that of a sword. Similarly, the consumption is less than 1/10 of the previous level. In this way, the mysteries are solved one after another. The reason why Xuemeng is so fierce is because, on the one hand, the blessing of talent makes his upper limit almost infinite. Not Su Qingfeng's kind of infinity, but real infinity. Why is Su Qingfeng weak? His strength is always in the future, on paper and in theoretical values. And Xuemeng's power is a serious one-shot deal. 10 birds in the forest are not as good as 10 birds in the hand. That's the truth. The reason why Wuhan didn't let Xuemeng use the sword was also found. Xuemeng, who was unable to break through to the Tongtian war god, picked up the sword and returned to the west before the 10,000 swords could be reunited. I'll just say it. Ye Bai casually threw the melon seed shells on the ground. Everyone is responsible for polluting the abyss. Second brother will not let you use the sword for no reason. A question mark appeared above Xuemeng's head. Why does this sound weirder the more you hear it? Is there something wrong? Ye Bai quickly changed the topic. By the way, Xuemeng, can you create your own skills? Less likely. Xuemeng shook his head, this was indeed his weakness. Ye Bai understood. Xuemeng is a man of action and pragmatism, and he uses whatever works best. He can build an aircraft carrier by hand according to the drawings. But if you ask him to design an aircraft carrier, he will be blinded. Xuemeng's talent in swordsmanship was all focused on learning the sword. It takes the path of a heavy sword without a sharp edge, lacking a little aura and no sense of elegance. If he were born in other eras, Xuemeng would be more embarrassed. There are only so many sword moves in this world, and after he learns them all, there will be nothing left to learn. As high as the sword is, Xuemeng is as high as he is. But Xuemeng met his second father, a walking sword-wielding machine. Wuhan relied on his own strength to raise the level of swordsmanship to an unknown level. After Wuhan appeared, the entire human race no longer had any dispute over the leader of the 100 soldiers. Then there was a harmonious scene in front of Ye Bai. Wuhan was in front to understand, and Xuemeng was following behind to learn. There is no place to learn without enlightenment, except Huang Jinyuan. Xuemeng, listen to me, thank you, because of you, the 4 seasons are warm. In short, Xuemeng recognized Wu Han as his adoptive father, which was really not a loss. Look at your potential. Ye Bai said dissatisfiedly. Can't you be more diligent and learn the sword by yourself? Xuemeng protested. You think it's easy to master the sword? Is it hard? Ye Bai counted on his fingers, killing in the shadows and losing his life. So far, I have learned 2 things about swords. What about you? Xuemeng dismissed it and said confidently. You only have 2 more sword skills than me, what's there to be proud of? You can't figure out any sword moves. It has only been 2 months since Ye Bai realized the 2 swords. Xuemeng is a young man in his 70s, but he still hasn't mastered the sword, so he is commonly known as _____. Xuemeng, you have more than 70,000 swords left after learning, how long will it take? Ye Bai asked nonchalantly. Xuemeng mentioned before that Wu Han learned more than 100,000 swords, but Xuemeng only learned 30,000. Xuemeng ate the happy melon seeds and said happily. Running away. Such a brave Shura is rare. This is no longer an ordinary demon. It's early, my second father hasn't. Xuemeng snorted coldly and looked towards the sky. He didn't expect that Shura and Xuemeng could be attacked by surprise when they were traveling together. Before he finished speaking, a sword energy struck him. Who is not afraid of death? Stand up and show your fierce master. There is a situation where I was watching a martial arts movie, and suddenly 2 sword fairies popped up, and I turned into a fairy. Well. After explaining the cause and effect of the matter, Lan Bangxian's brows relaxed. Before anyone arrives, the sword arrives first. Xuemeng threw out the melon seeds in his hand. Each melon seed carried some sword energy, forming a meticulous sword formation, trapping the light blue sword energy in it and slowly wearing it away. I'm not afraid of death. Ye Bai lowered his head and glanced at the Heavenly King's sword at his waist. That's okay. He looked at Shura and asked in confusion. A bloody shadow rose from the ground, revealing his noble identity as the most powerful adopted son. There is a saying that those who fight with swords are more handsome. Lan Bangxian landed and looked at the mess on the ground, frowning slightly. If I can run away, I want to run away too. Guess which old friend is waiting for us outside the void? Ye Bai sighed and said helplessly. Uncle, what should we do now? But what Xuemeng said before was swallowed back in his stomach. If you wanted to run away, the person next to you would have run away long ago. A certain demon replied. Xuemeng looked at Lan Bangxian, hoping that he would make up his mind. Yes, why didn't you run away today? Xuemeng's voice echoed over the abyss. Ye Bai, who was watching from the side, exclaimed that it was wonderful. What happened? Lan Bangxian chuckled and said. Xuemeng was stunned, what he said makes sense. Lan Bangxian's sword energy was quickly suppressed by Xuemeng. I also use a sword, am I handsome too? Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 615. There are so many demons, but only one is not afraid of death. The 5th demon god makes a majestic appearance. Shortly after Ye Bai and others entered the 8th abyss. The 5th demon has arrived near the 8th abyss. His slogan is, never miss a meal. With only Lan Bangxian and Xuemeng by his side, Shura's life would really be in danger if he bumped into the 5th demon. In fact, Ye Bai had already figured out all this. The most powerful demon god tried to seduce Ye Bai through the demon throne of his predecessor, the 8th demon god. Where did this demon throne come from? On the surface, it seemed that Poseidon had snatched it back. Behind the scenes, the help of the 5th demon is indispensable. Poseidon is still too young to know that there is a price tag behind every gift. Ye Bai keenly grasped this context the moment he regained consciousness. The 5th demon god does things differently from the 2nd demon god. The 2nd demon looks like an old coin, but in fact he plots and suffers everywhere. He also didn't want to think about the fact that in the past 100 years, the abyss and the human race had been at war, and the situation was gradually reversed. As time went by, the demon race's chances of winning became smaller and smaller. Hiding behind the scenes, unable to risk your life, and making calculations will appear to be petty. On the contrary, it is the fifth demon god. Every time you engage in conspiracy, go into battle personally and lead the charge. 100% participation rate, 0 deaths. Stand out. There is also a gap between demon gods. Since Yabai guessed that the fifth demon god was ambushing him outside, even if he wanted to run away, he couldn't run away. Isn't that just throwing yourself into a trap? Although Dangan gave a 100% survival rate. But this survival rate is based on the fact that Yabai can survive 100% if he acts according to his usual logic and does not seek death. If Yabai stood up and challenged the fifth demon god now, the fifth demon god may be about to unlock the achievement of single killing the strongest seed. Therefore, Yabai chose to stay where he was, waiting for Lan Bangxian to join him, and then figure out what to do next. Not long after Lan Bangxian arrived, an earth dragon rolled up on the horizon, and Huo Tianyi rushed over. "Are you still alive?" Seeing Shura, Huo Tianyi habitually activated the skill Bad Mouth. "Sometimes, if I don't have a bad mouth, I feel uncomfortable all over. People are also do." Before Yabai finished speaking, a crack suddenly appeared in the space in front of them, and a man covered in blood fell out of it. Gold medal undercover Xiao Xiao is now the deputy leader of the fifth demon sect. As soon as he landed, the seriously injured Xiao Xiao shouted at the top of his lungs, "Boss, run quickly, my tutor is going to kill you." Yabai. "Do you think this undercover agent is useful? The fifth demon god Tukian Biao saw it and he came to warn us." "You said he was useless, people came desperately to warn him. All I can say is, the spirit is commendable." Yabai helped Xiao Xiao up, treated him casually, and warned seriously, "Don't be so harsh on yourself next time." He knew exactly where Xiao Xiao's injuries came from. If the fifth demon god deliberately wanted to kill him, Xiao Xiao would have no chance of coming to see Shura alive. Teacher Xiao didn't feel embarrassed at all, he laughed twice and stood silently behind Shura. With just one glance, Xiao Xiao recognized the luxurious lineup present. Needless to say, Shura is the most powerful seed of this generation. Xiao Huo Tianwang, Lan Bangxian, Xuemeng. One background is bigger than the other. In such a heavyweight occasion, it was not his place to speak, so he could just follow the show. Anyway. After rebirth, Xiao Xiao had only one thought and firmly hugged Shura's thigh. Follow Shura and live to be 99. One wave has not subsided, and another wave has arisen. Poseidon happened to return at this time and was surprised to find that there were more and more people. Everyone present put their hands together and killed him 100 times. But since the two parties still have a cooperative relationship, Poseidon has nothing to fear. Even if it is cooperation with the fifth demon god, Poseidon will report it to the humans and only proceed after approval by the humans. It's quite outrageous for a god to reach this level. Just in time, let me introduce you to Poseidon, the future eighth demon god. After Yabai introduced Poseidon, he pointed to a black-haired teacher behind him. My little brother has rich working experience in the demon section. You will also be from the 8th demon sect in the future. Think about it. It's nominally for Poseidon to consider. In fact, it was an acceptance letter. Poseidon has nothing to hesitate about. He doesn't care about the demon cult or anything like that. He leaves it to the humans to take care of it, so there is nothing to lose. Xiao Xiao stepped forward and shook hands with Poseidon enthusiastically. Please take good care of me in the future. Poseidon asked a lot. Which demon sect were you in before? First, third, fourth, sixth. Xiao Ziao reported a series of numbers. Every time he said a number, Poseidon's face became darker. If Poseidon remembers correctly, the fate of these demon gods seems not to be good. This is a wealth of work experience. This is a wealth of bankruptcy experience. With you as the leader, Poseidon will be miserable for 8 lifetimes. Now he is also the acting leader of the 5th demon sect. Xiao Ziao emphasized. The 5th demon sect hasn't fallen yet. Poseidon. Sounds like you're sorry? Xiao Ziao didn't expect that when he risked his life to inform Shura, he would get a leader. I can have more free money in the future. Great. What do we do now? The topic goes back to the beginning, how to get Shura back. Everyone looked at Shura, and Shura looked at Lan Bangxian. Lan Bangxian slowly spoke. Wilhen is on his way. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Ye Bai was overjoyed and asked. My second brother is here. No. Lan Bangxian shook his head. Your second brother stopped. In the void. A large abyssal plane is slowly advancing. The great devil is still lying on the ground. But if you look at it upside down, it can also be understood that he is carrying the abyss on his back. That's right, the great demon with the abyss on his back drags the first abyss forward in the void. On the highest peak of the first abyss, a swordsman in white sat cross-legged, enjoying the scenery leisurely. The view of the abyss. Wilhen has been watching it for many years, and he never gets tired of cutting it. Now, Shura is in a critical situation, surrounded by powerful enemies, and his life is in danger at any time. Wilhen seemed to have seen his own battle between life and death. They have never lacked the trials of blood and fire. It's not intentional, but the human race is weak and must survive in the cracks. Once the most powerful seeds of the human race reach a certain critical point, they will explode with terrifying combat power. Thinking about it like this, Wilhen was actually looking forward to it. Shura is a funny little guy, very interesting. But what is the critical point of Shura? No one seems to know the answer to this question. Wilhen suddenly felt something interesting. Anyway, I won't watch this kid die. Thinking of this, the swordsman in white ordered to go down. Fly slower. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 616. The Eighth Abyss. Lan Bangxian said, your second brother has stopped, making Ye Bai almost petrified. Ye Bai looked at Xuemeng and said in a deep voice. Translation, what does it mean to stop? What's the translation of this? Xuemeng didn't pretend to be confused, he was really confused. If it stops, it means it will stop. I asked you to translate, what the hell do you mean stop? Poseidon was a little curious and took a peek at Shura, who was furious. What's going on here? Xiao Zial explained to his demon god thoughtfully. It's nothing serious, my mentality is broken. Ye Bai's mentality collapsed for a full 30 seconds before he recovered. He had to face a reality. When tall buildings rise from the ground, Shura still has to rely on himself. The third brother is too far away, the second brother is too slow, and the eldest brother is cooking. If Ye Bai didn't rely on himself, he wouldn't be able to escape from this murderous situation. The key is, the second brother didn't know why he was delayed. If the situation is urgent, Ye Bai will have his hands free, and he might even go to support his second brother. No kidding. Ye Bai changed himself into a mask with a few clear words written on it. A mask for talking about big things. Xuemeng, Lan Bangxian, and Huo Tianyi all looked at Ye Bai, waiting for what was to come. For them, This killing game does not exist. The target of the fifth demon god is not them, and each of them has his own means to save his life. The most dangerous thing is Shura. Moreover, there is an unwritten rule among the strong human beings. On the battlefield, the most powerful seeds are generally the main ones. In past battles and experiences, Shura has proven that he has the ability to make decisions. So, when everyone was in a critical situation, with almost no coordination, everyone unanimously handed over the command to Shura. This is a trust, but also a test. Yabai understood the heaviness in these eyes and nodded in response. I will definitely survive. Everyone. According to common sense, the lines at this time should be: I will take everyone to survive together. Not one less. It would be better for Shura to come up and say, I will definitely survive. You can understand the word go. Everyone's mood was complicated for a moment, and their expressions were even more complicated. Yabai continued. The first task is to find out what Xiao Wu wants to do. Xuemeng nodded and agreed. Yeah, I can't figure it out either. This is the eighth abyss. If the fifth demon god breaks in forcefully, his own strength will be subject to many restrictions and he will not be able to reach the peak. The fifth demon god, who is not at his peak, has no ability to kill Shura. In other words, as long as Shura doesn't go out, his life will not be in danger for the time being. Huo Tianyi and Lan Bangxian probably have an answer to what Xuemeng cannot understand, but they are not sure yet. That Xiao Ziao, who had been eavesdropping, carefully raised his hand to speak. My tutor, I mean, the fifth demon who deserves death. Xiao Ziao's simple words reflect his extremely high emotional intelligence. He neither offended the human race nor the fifth demon god. High, too high. Xiao Ziao wiped the sweat from his forehead. He may want to destroy the eighth abyss first. Everyone? Yabai could guess that the fifth demon was crazy, but he didn't expect him to be so crazy. Normally, the demon god does not have the ability to attack other abyss. On the one hand, the most powerful patrol the abyss without trace and will never allow this to happen. On the other hand, when the abyss is attacked, its own demon will desperately resist, and may even cooperate with the human race. Once the abyss is breached, it will be a disaster for the devil. In the face of a life and death crisis, every demon god will choose to maximize his own interests. Now that the eighth demon god is dead, Wuhan must stay in the first abyss. Instead, it gave the fifth demon god an excellent opportunity. Break through the eighth abyss and completely destroy the eighth abyss. Once successful, all demon gods will be upgraded by another level, reaching level 1000. And this is something that the human race will never agree to. Hiss. Yabai took a breath of cold air. Oops, I'm a giveaway. Killing the most powerful seeds is just a matter of convenience. As for the fifth demon god, he has defeated all the most powerful seeds and failed every time. If you target Shura, you will make the same mistake again. The fifth demon god simply sent out a surprise attack on the human race. You won't let me die, right? Then everyone should stop living. Solve the eighth abyss and raise all the demon gods in the abyss to level 1000. The fifth demon god wants to see how many lives the human race can fill in the abyss. Once the situation in the abyss gets out of control and the world is in chaos, the demon god attacks the eternal tower and the most powerful demon god is released. No matter which way it ends, it doesn't matter to the fifth demon god. Poseidon is the bottom of shit. The fifth demon is the real rock bottom. Life is worse than death, and death is not an option. That makes sense. With Xiao Ziao's information, everything was clearly laid out in front of Yabai and others. After the situation became clear, Yabai knew very clearly that his top priority was to defend the eighth abyss. Brother Blue? Brother Lan, try to contact the nearby human legion to learn about the situation in other abyss. Xiao Ziyal's face turned dark when he heard that he was about to go out. After arranging Huo Tianyi, Ye Bai looked at Lan Bangxian. Poseidon? Then it makes sense to call yourself Big Brother. How long has it been and you still haven't forgotten to shear the wool? Ye Bai greeted Xiao Ziyal. Obviously, Shura's old skills cannot be lost. Ye Bai pondered for a moment and then said. There is a fifth demon outside. Isn't this a way to die? Don't be afraid. What the hell is this? Xiao Ziyal swallowed his saliva and asked timidly. Excuse me, please make one more trip and go out to find my second master. Brother Xiao, come on, come on. Ye Bai was no longer able to complain. He lost half his life before breaking into the blocked 8th abyss. The 8th abyss is causing so much trouble, I guess the other abyss are not honest either. Ye Bai said kindly. Lan Bangxian originally thought that this title was a bit too much. Study well and be a good person in the next life. Lan Bangxian nodded slightly, agreeing. Let him out now? Then, what if there is an eventuality? The most powerful seeds of the human race defend the 8th abyss and fight to the death. Ye Bai comforted. However, now that we know what the other party wants, our ideas for dealing with it have become clearer. Xiao Huo, take Poseidon to sign a contract with the Pavilion of All Things, help him expedite the construction of the Demon Emperor's palace, and buy an acceleration pack of 1.2 million for the God of War's merits. The entire abyss is in chaos. Second Master Ying is the crown prince of the 5th abyss. If you go out and contact him, your leader will not make things difficult for you. Then I thought about it, since Shura called him Brother Wuhan. The 8th demon god is a person who works with a certificate after being approved by the human race. If anything happens, the 5th demon god carries the banner of Abyss becoming great again. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 617. Next life? Xiao Ziyal has not lived enough in this life. Shura has even arranged his next life? Boss, I'm actually having a hard time. Xiao Ziyal's eyes were filled with tears and his voice was crying. He used to be Lian Liankan's shadow, but Xiao Ao used unknown means to transform him into a human being. Finally, he was resurrected with the gift of nightmare dream come true. He was happy as a human being. But not long after I was happy, the banquet was about to begin. This is too hard to bear. Ye Bai knew very well the importance of drawing a pie before the battle, and said deceptively. When this matter is over, I will help you break through to the God of War. A God of War would make Xiao Ziyal risk his life. This is a bit too contemptuous. Before Xiao Ziyal could speak, Ye Bai continued. When I become the most powerful person, I will protect your life. Xiao Ziyal's eyes lit up. This sentence is equivalent to extending his life for 36 years. With this empty promise, Xiao Ziyal ran to work without any nonsense. In fact, he also knew that there was really no risk in this matter. Xiao Ziyal, a small shrimp and millet, is not qualified to serve as a side dish at this banquet. The 5th devil looked down upon him at all. What's more, Xiao Ziyal wants to contact the 2nd Master Ying, and the 5th demon god might be happy to see it happen. Finish arranging everything else. Ye Bai looked at Xuemeng and asked a sole question. Just stay here and you won't be in any way, right? Xuemeng? According to the agreement of the strongest, a strong man with the level of God of War cannot enter the abyss casually. And below the Tongtian God of War, the most powerful one is Xuemeng. If there is a fire in the abyss backyard, Xuemeng is the best firefighter. Shura still thinks he is in the way? Xuemeng immediately reacted. Shura was talking about whether there would be any impact if Xuemeng was missing elsewhere. It shouldn't be a problem. Xuemeng was also very straightforward and explained. My dad and the others are watching. The overall situation of the human race has always been guarded by the strongest. This is indeed the truth. However, Xuemeng's words my father and the others always felt weird. Regarding the fact that one person has many fathers. Ye Bai hasn't fully accepted it yet. Only Xuemeng could say such words confidently. After confirming with Xuemeng, Ye Bai nodded and continued. Come on, come with me to meet the fifth demon. According to Ye Bai's plan, Xiao Xiao went to invite foreign aid. Huo Tianyi and Lan Bangxian helped Poseidon become the eighth demon god as soon as possible. He and Xuemeng had to face the fifth demon's offensive. Before the fifth demon god breaks through the eighth abyss, Poseidon must become the eighth demon god. Only in this way can the eighth abyss be defended and the overall situation stabilized. The fifth demon god wants to conquer the eighth abyss. Not by himself alone. What's more, I want to use the demonic tide under my command to fight. A demonic tide composed of tens of billions of monsters rushes out of the void, constantly devouring the source of the abyss. This is the stupidest method and the most efficient method. In order to prevent the eighth abyss from being breached, Ye Bai must destroy the fifth demon god's attack plan, that is, to prevent the attack of the demon tide. This is the most difficult task and the most dangerous. Ye Bai knew very well that this was also a task that he had to undertake on his own. When it comes to torturing food, Shura is the best at it. Guide and navigation. Ye Bai gave an order and the SSS level talent Eye of Insight immediately navigated. Extreme talent, online navigation. 50 kilometers ahead, take off at an elevation angle of 35 degrees. A few minutes later, Ye Bai and Xuemeng appeared at the entrance of a cave in the eighth abyss. This is the main attack direction of the fifth demon god. Hold on, we can win. Standing at the entrance of the cave, looking at the situation inside, Ye Bai looked gloomy and said nothing. Just standing at the entrance of the cave, you can hear a lot of fighting sounds. Apparently the men of the fifth demon god have broken through from the void and are devouring the source of the abyss. What are you waiting for? Xuemeng became anxious and urged. All the monsters are here, hurry in. This is the weak point of the eighth abyss, and the void passage has been opened. There are already many subordinates of the fifth demon god in the cave. If left alone, they will cause great harm to the eighth abyss. Relying on the insightful eyes, the two of them didn't waste any time on the way, which was lucky. The top priority is to clean up the battlefield and break the void passage. Why did Shura retreat when he arrived at the battlefield? This is not the Shura Xuemeng knew. Ye Bai's voice trembled slightly. Xuemeng, why don't you go alone? It seemed that there was a great terror ahead, which stopped him from moving forward. There aren't many beings in this world who can give the most powerful seeds of humanity such a sense of oppression. No, I can't leave you alone. Xuemeng patted his chest and promised. As long as I'm here, I guarantee that your life will not be in any danger. No matter what difficulties lie ahead, Xuemeng decided to face them with a smile and rush. There is something I have hidden from you for a long time. In a rare display of true feelings, Ye Bai said frankly. I, actually am a mage. I'm afraid Xuemeng won't understand. Ye Bai stretched out his hands and gestured in the air and said. Do you understand a mage? He is the kind of mage who outputs wretchedly behind the warriors, with high attack and defense but low health. As an orthodox mage, Ye Bai felt that he could just output at the edge of the battlefield, and he didn't necessarily have to go deep into the battlefield. The blood of a mage flows in his body, and the soul of a mage burns in him. It is our duty to revive the glory of orthodox mages. This melee mage is inappropriate. Xuemeng looked at the heavenly king's sword on Ye Bai's waist and didn't know what to say for a moment. In Xuemeng's memory, Shura used his sword more times than his staff. Moreover, that is the heavenly king's sword. Countless swordsmen in the world are eager to own the heavenly king's sword. From Xueju's hands, it was passed down to Wuhan and then to Ye Bai. Although you are a mage, you have mastered 2 sword moves in just 2 months. Xuemeng corrected him seriously with a straight face. You are still the wind. You come and go like the wind, so what's the point of fear? The two went back and forth for several rounds. Shura tried his best to refuse to enter the battlefield. Xuemeng insisted on initiating the group invitation and kept repeating that we can win. Finally, Ye Bai pointed at the cave with a dark face and said fiercely, "This is a fucking gold mine." The battlefield chosen by the 5th demon god happened to be a gold mine. The gold here is extremely pure and can be used as the raw material for eternal gold coins. Very precious. In other words, once Shura who possesses breaking money enters the gold mine battle, wherever you go, you turn gold into copper. The sadness left to Shura is so great. 5th demon god, you have done all kinds of bad things. Veins popped up on Ye Bai's forehead, and he roared and repeated, "This is a fucking gold mine." At this moment, Xuemeng finally couldn't hold it in any longer and laughed out loud. Ha 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 ha. The hearty laughter of the most powerful adopted son echoed in the sky above the 8th abyss, which was particularly unrestrained. I knew. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjio Old Thief. Chapter 618. Standing in front of the gold mine, Ye Bai felt like he was being hit by 10,000 points in his heart. How many steps does it take to defeat the most powerful seed Shura? Answer, 3 steps. The first step, release the bankrupt to him. Step 2, force him to fight. Step 3, set the battlefield at the gold mine. Hiss. Ye Bai didn't know how many times he sucked in cold air, and his scalp still felt numb. Xuemeng comforted him and said, "Just think of it as a copper mine." Ye Bai, are you trying to comfort people, or are you trying to make people angry? When Xuemeng said this, Ye Bai felt his heart hurt even more. Even if it's a gold mine. Xuemeng enlightened. It's not your gold mine, it's the gold mine of the 8th abyss. Why do you feel bad about it? Ye Bai said confidently. I've seen it, isn't it mine? This time, it was Xuemeng's turn to raise a question mark over his head. As expected of you, Shura. As long as you take a look at this gold mine, it will be yours. Thinking about it carefully, there seems to be no problem. Understand, Shura is like this. Xuemeng retreated and asked for the next best thing. Then, let Lao Ba pay you a gold mine later. Ye Bai said coldly. This is the gold mine with the largest reserves in the 8th abyss. This 5th demon is really good at picking places. Xuemeng pondered for a moment. He never thought that the situation would be so difficult. Generally speaking, Xuemeng has 2 ways to deal with this situation. Either hit it with a hammer or fight with your father. Unfortunately, both of these are useless to Shura. At this point, all we can do is use our trump card. Xuemeng said in a deep voice. After this fight, I will learn Huang Jinyuan. Make a deal. A smile suddenly appeared on Ye Bai's face, and the previous shadow was swept away, and he even actively urged. Let's go, let's not delay the great cause of slaying demons. Not good. Fooled again? Xuemeng asked curiously as he walked forward. Did you break the law and lose money? Ye Bai shook his head, no. Then you adjusted your mentality so quickly. Xuemeng raised his eyebrows slightly in disbelief. Did you find another bug? Look at what you said. Is Xiu such a person? Ye Bai showed a scheming smile. I'm just hiding in your shadow, carefully avoiding places with a lot of gold content. First of all, the gold mine is not all gold, there are still many impurities. Secondly, Ye Bai, who is hiding in the shadow, can control the size and direction of the shadow to reduce his losses as much as possible. Just now, Inside Eye has given the estimated losses. About 6.8% of reserves will turn into copper, resulting in a loss of 12 billion eternal gold coins. Yabai simply ignored the last sentence and pretended he didn't see it. Using 6.8% of the reserves in exchange for Xuemeng learning the sword Huang Huang Yuan was a small win for Yabai. Shura never loses. Xuemeng held his forehead and said helplessly, "I've convinced you." Not long after Xuemeng entered the gold mine cave, he encountered the first wave of monsters, which he easily defeated with a hammer. "No, there are too many monsters." Xuemeng frowned slightly as he looked at the monsters pouring out in front of him. Without any personal grudges, at this time, it is best to act separately. Not urgent. Yabai, who was hiding in the shadow, did not take Xuemeng's suggestion. They were right about the general direction of the fifth demon god's plan. But when it comes to the specific details, Yabai doesn't know how many surprises there are. The most important thing is that if you act separately, the end will usually not be good. In order to solve the trouble of the demon tide, Yabai made a decision that followed his nature: shake people. White light flashed, and several figures appeared in front of Xuemeng. Cain, Gabriel, Dracula. The top combat power of Shura's sheepfold is all here. Yabai first looked at the two vampires. 1 million monsters and 5 drops of blood essence. This time, the two of them nodded almost at the same time. Make a deal. The demon lord offered such a generous price, what else could he not be satisfied with? Now that the price was agreed upon, they started work immediately. As long as you stay under Shura for a period of time, your work efficiency will increase linearly. Any time spent fishing will only increase the chance of Shura exploiting them. Might as well work hard. For them, work is sometimes a blessing. At least, I still have money to take and life to spend. In the gold mine cave, there was a long river of blood and a sea of blood, and the air was filled with a faint smell of blood. Cain and Dracula each chose a direction and killed each other. Vampires have always been experts in mass killing and killing animals. After all, it can suck blood and has pretty good battery life. After arranging the two vampires, Yabai looked at Gabriel. Before he could offer any conditions, the other party took the initiative and said, "What do you need me to do?" Gabriel has always been an excellent representative of working for free. No money needed, no money charged. Yabai thought for a while and said, "Xuemeng and I must go deep and destroy the void passage in order to get rid of it once and for all. With Cain and Dracula sharing the pressure, the demonic tide will not surge to the ground in a large scale. You retreat to the exit and take care of the fish that slipped through the net." Yabai was still a little worried and warned, "Contact me if you have any questions. This is an abyss. Be careful not to die." "Good." Gabriel didn't say much and turned around to leave. After arranging their subordinates well, the pressure on Yabai and Xuemeng was suddenly reduced. Xuemeng has only one question. Can your exclusive space be opened in the abyss? Strangeness. Yabai asked back. You're not the first to ask me this, can't you all? Huo Tianyi also asked himself once before. Xuemeng shook his head, indeed he couldn't. Yabai probably knew deep down that this matter was probably related to Master Fool. However, if Master Fool didn't tell him, Yabai would pretend he didn't know and wouldn't take the initiative to ask. This is one of the few tacit understandings between the two parties. Everyone has their own secrets. If you ask too many questions, you will break the tacit understanding and become embarrassed. Go, go, go. Under Yabai's command, Xuemeng launched another charge. There are still many hard battles ahead for him and Shura. The most terrifying thing is that no one knows when this battle will end. The only thing Yabai and Xuemeng knew was that they had to hold on. Just as Shura and Xuemeng were locked in a bitter battle. In the void, the powerful human army is rushing towards the eighth abyss with great momentum. They are equipped with elite equipment, have high morale, and have extraordinary combat power. They look like an army capable of hundreds of battles. The most terrifying thing is the flag they raised. A tattered flag with an ugly love heart painted on it, which looks a bit funny at first glance. But no monster can laugh in front of this flag. Just such a simple flag has caused the monsters in the abyss to flee in all directions over the past 100 years. What it means is simple. The most powerful legion of the human race, the Nightmare Legion. Hold on, Shura. The deputy commander of the Nightmare Legion, the powerful 9th-level war god Su Ching-Feng, had a steady look on his face, but there was still some anxiety deep in his eyes. Strong reinforcements are coming soon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, only I can see hidden information. Author, Minjai Old Thief. Chapter 619. Deep in the gold mines of the 8th abyss. Yabai stabbed the enemy with his sword, and the lightning from the tip of the sword spread along the wound, killing him instantly. He and Xuemeng walked together. The deeper they went, the stronger and more difficult the demonic tide became. The battle gradually became more intense. How anxious is it? Yabai was even forced to reveal his true identity. Ignoring the impact of losing money, Yabai left Xuemeng's shadow and joined the frontal battle to share the pressure for Xuemeng. Money is nothing compared to life. Yabai has always been able to grasp the big issues of right and wrong. A sea of thunder submerged the demon tide, clearing away the demons in front of Yabai. But in the blink of an eye, another monster rushed up. These monsters seem endless to kill, without giving them any chance to rest. Yabai threw a series of fireballs with his backhand and shouted in a low voice. Don't expect reinforcements. The situation he and Xuemeng faced was 100 or 1,000 times worse than expected. Looking at the dense demonic tide, Yabai's eyes glowed with cold light. Here. War kings are everywhere, and there are as many war gods as dogs. There are even monsters that can withstand a thunderbolt without dying. Even if we pull the strongest army over, it will just be a waste of human lives. Su Ching-Feng, one of them will die, one of them will die. If this wave of demons hadn't encountered Yabai and Xuemeng, once they had entered the 8th abyss, the consequences would have been disastrous. Just thinking about it, a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood seemed to appear in front of Yabai's eyes, and he was indescribably sad. The erosion of one battlefield can easily affect the outcome of the entire battle like a snowball. The century-old foundation of the human race may be destroyed at any time. Boom! Xuemeng struck out with a hammer, clearing the screen again. The master of battlefield cleaning Xuemeng. He was breathing heavily, white smoke was coming out of his head, and his shoulders were heaving. This is not the demonic tide of the 5th abyss. Both quality and quantity exceed the level of the 5th abyss. You know, the 5th demon god has been crazily starting fights, and most of the monsters he can fight will die. The human race will not kill the 5th demon god, but they will definitely weaken him as much as possible. Behind such a terrifying demonic tide, there is the shadow of that person. A name emerged in the hearts of Yabai and Xuemeng at the same time. The most powerful demon. Ever since the throne was attacked, the most powerful demon has taken action. There are also signs of the intervention of the most powerful demon god in the demonic tide here. Rather, this time it is the 5th demon who starts a group. Rather, the 5th demon god is just acting as a pawn, the real mastermind behind the scenes is the most powerful demon god. Xiaoao is just a retreat. The Supreme Abyss began to be unwilling to be lonely and became restless. It can be seen from this that the peaceful years of the past 36 years were not just an illusion of peace. For Yabai and Xuemeng, this is by no means good news. Think on the bright side. Yabai looked at the monster and could no longer control it, so he directly used all kinds of creatures to clean up the battlefield. The more pressure we have here, the easier it will be elsewhere. Under Xiaoyao's eyes. The power that the most powerful demon god can summon is limited, so use less. If used too much, Xiaoyao will take the opportunity to counterattack. This is a big game, and what the two sides are competing for is determination. Obviously. The most powerful demon god made attacks one after another, which showed that he was in a hurry. In the medium to long term, this is good news for the human race. But in the short term, the human race will have to bear greater pressure to prevent the most powerful demon from jumping over the wall. Can you do it? After temporarily suppressing the momentum of the demon tide, Ye Bai looked at Xue Meng, his brows furrowed. You look tired. After the two entered the mine, the battle they experienced was not enough to make Xue Meng so exhausted. Could it be that Xue Meng charges for 2 hours and talks for 5 minutes? Xue Meng said angrily. That blow before, I used all my strength. In order to interrupt the interference of the most powerful demon. Xue Meng smashed the demon throne with one hammer. His back, which looked so fierce, was quite taxing on his body. It would be okay if Xue Meng could have time to rest. But the two of them rushed to put out the fire without stopping. Now, the hidden danger of overdraft is exposed. Ye Bai felt very troubled. There's something weird about you, and I can't help you see a doctor. There are traces of the most powerful person's actions on Xue Meng's body, which the eye of insight cannot see through. It's out of the way. Xue Meng wiped the sweat from his forehead, picked up the giant hammer, and continued to walk forward. We need to hurry up, I'm vaguely uneasy. It seemed that something deep in the mine made him feel threatened. Better get it resolved early. Since Xue Meng said it was okay, Ye Bai didn't take it to heart. He slid the copper slide and moved forward in the mine. Xue Meng? This way the financial impact will be less. Ye Bai explained. Although the war is urgent. However, when conditions permit, Shura is still diligent and frugal in managing his family, and he must spend every penny. After experiments, Ye Bai discovered that copper is the best insulator for losing money. My skateboard is the most fashionable and fashionable. The two of them used all their firepower to pass through the level and defeat the demonic tide. That's all. They successfully arrived at the deepest part of the mine, a dark red wall. Boom. Boom. A terrifying heartbeat sounded, causing Ye Bai's eardrums to ache. Right behind here. Xue Meng's expression was solemn, as if facing a formidable enemy. Behind the wall, there is a terrifying enemy. Above level 990, you need to hit it with all your strength to solve it. Level 994, difficult to kill alone. Danyan gave a more detailed and accurate evaluation. Shura, please go back first. The boss who guarded the final stage clearly exceeded Xue Meng's expectations. He changed his plans on the spot. I won't die. You go back first and meet Uncle Lan. Ye Baigong wanted to say something. If Shura is asked to retreat, Shura will definitely refuse. Xue Meng interrupted him. Don't feel embarrassed. This is a battlefield that changes rapidly. You have to keep a clear mind to have the last laugh. There's no time to waste. Xue Meng felt that his words should touch Shura's soul and be enough to convince him to retreat. Just listen to what I have to say, okay? Ye Bai got angry and cursed loudly. I mean, the enemy is already behind us. This is not a question of whether Shura can escape or not. Catching a turtle in the urn belongs to Yes. Hiss. Xue Meng turned around and saw an ugly and powerful monster. He has 6 arms and 8 legs, stuck in a cave like a crab. His whole body was filled with black gas, and all kinds of sharp black thorns were all over his body, and a permeating smile appeared on his twisted face. Without any greeting, the monster rushed up to give Xue Meng a loving hug. Boom! Xue Meng struck out with a backhand hammer, shattering the enemy's arms and sending him flying dozens of meters. Any drama? Yabai didn't have time to be happy yet. The enemy's aura rose instead of falling, and his broken arms quickly recovered. The son of the nightmare. The monster's arms were restored to their original state, eyes glowing red, grinning and saying, "That's it? Online games, only I can see hidden information." Author, Minjaya Old Thief. Chapter 620. The son of a nightmare, that's it? These words echoed in the mind, extremely arrogant. Well, let's learn some science. Yabai took out a dictionary and said seriously. The adopted son is not related by blood, so whether Xuemeng is fierce or not has nothing to do with his adopted father. The monster glanced at Yabai, frowned and asked. "And who are you?" "Yabai, Xuemeng. This guy, doesn't know Shura?" "Not for Shura?" Yabai's brain was running rapidly, and at this moment, Go's instinct was aroused. He knew very well that there was no need to reveal that he was Shura. Obviously, Xuemeng also knew this truth. Yabai needs a fake identity to take the blame. But this false identity must be strong enough to withstand beatings, so as not to be targeted by enemies and beaten to death directly. If Yabai reported Su Qingfeng's name, he would not be taking the blame, but sending Lao Su to die. This black pot is very precious. He must carry it. Yabai and Xuemeng blurted out almost at the same time. "Little King Huo. Little King Huo." The monster thought about it and looked surprised. "You mean, Madman Huo?" Obviously, this man had played against King Huo Tian and was deeply impressed by Madman Huo. "That's right." Yabai introduced himself. "Madman Huo lives towards death, breaks into the abyss of the strongest, draws a clear line with me, and has nothing to do with me from now on." Before Yabai could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the monster. "You are not him." "Yabai. I've obviously disguised myself so well, why was it still seen through? What went wrong?" The monster saw Yabai's doubts and said casually. "You speak too civilly. Don't speak like a mother, and be civilized between you and me. Yabai is a quality and civilized person. King Huo Tian is not." Yabai sighed and said helplessly. "Hey, it's so confusing." The monster suddenly spoke again. "Have you procrastinated enough? From just now, Yabai has been stalling for time. Obviously, after a long battle, Xuemeng's consumption was greater than Yabai imagined. Xuemeng's situation was worsened by the hasty battle with the monsters. In just a few words, I managed to buy a moment for Xuemeng to rest. This was already the limit. Moreover, Yabai was not idle either. The eye of insight frantically analyzes the opponent's intelligence. Desolate Demon, level 994, comes from the abyss of the strongest, has fought against Nightmare, Sun Li, and Yingju. Just looking at the opponent's record made Yabai feel heavy in his heart. Being able to survive from Nightmare and Shadow 9 didn't seem like a big deal. The eldest brother doesn't like killing, and Master Ju is sometimes strong and sometimes weak. The key is, you can survive against Sun Li. That's really something. At any other time, when encountering such an unlucky enemy, Yabai would simply take a detour. The problem now is that they are blocked in the cave and have no way to retreat. Xuemeng's face was gloomy and he said via voice message. "Buy me some time." "How long?" Yabai is also very straightforward. This time, the pressure was overwhelming and there was no time to ink him. "Hold on as long as you can." After saying that, Xuemeng retreated back, leaning against the wall with his eyes closed tightly. His whole body was as restrained as dead wood and rotten stone. "Yabai. What the hell, you're cheating your teammates." Yabai stepped forward bravely and greeted the other party in a friendly manner. "Hello, I am an ordinary mage from the human race." "You are Shura, right?" Huang Emo looked at Yabai warily. "As the strongest seed, you are a bit too ordinary. Obviously, Huang Emo was explaining why he didn't recognize Shura the first time. These words. The damage is not high, but the humiliation is strong. This is no longer a taunt, this is a face-to-face output. Your last name is Huo, right? Yabai couldn't bear it anymore, this wild demon deserved a beating. He decided to endure it a little longer. The most powerful seed. A red light appeared in Huang Mo's eyes, and his body changed again. His arms merged with his arms, and his legs merged with his legs. During this period, his aura continued to grow stronger. If you fight against the most powerful seed, he needs to show his strongest fighting condition. All those who underestimated the most powerful seeds are dead. Even though this Shura looked ordinary, the desolate demon couldn't bear to underestimate the enemy at all. Mainly, the previous Xeon seeds were too terrifying. Yabai did not hesitate and took out the Chaos Thunder that had been folded and ready to go. Smash it for me. Rumble. Continuous explosions were heard, and smoke obscured the view. When the smoke cleared, a harmless wild demon appeared in front of Yabai. Appeared. The law of smoke does no harm. Good news, you abolished one of Huang Mo's life-saving means. Bad news, the wild demon has more than one way to save his life. With just one face-to-face meeting, Yabai defeated the wild demon instantly. However, the other party survived from Sun Li. The enemy from the abyss is unexpectedly difficult to deal with. Rumble. Yabai didn't hesitate, he used the power of nature, ignored the side effects of losing money, and directly summoned the Shurasi. At the same time, Kane's shield flashed. Obviously, the distance between Kane and Yabai was a bit far, and there were monsters in the way, so they couldn't teleport over to rescue them. The next second, the bat symbol appears on Kane's shield. Apparently, Kane incapacitated himself and came back to life inside the shield. Yabai said casually. I'll pay for it. Kane. Are the enemies this time so difficult? They all force the demon lord to spend money. If he can't do anything to Shura, he can just attack Xuemeng. Anyway, Xuemeng asked him to delay, but he didn't ask him to risk his life. The wild demon was not in a hurry, it was quite easy to deal with it, and he could even overwhelm Shura. Sometimes I rub a thunderbolt in the dark, sometimes I hold the heavenly king's sword and lean on the stars to stab it and run away. That's it? No more trouble with you. But only your greed cannot be greater than mine. For this move, the most powerful seed of the human race, is his crotch stretched so much now? If there is no such opportunity, Yabai would rather play slowly and slowly consume the opponent. Is this the most powerful seed of the human race? Yabai is extremely confident. Kane did not dare to be careless, so he mustered up all his energy and went into battle. Even the god of war, Tongtian, might suffer at the hands of Shura if he is not careful. After seeing enough of Shura's methods, Huang Emo snorted coldly, increased his speed suddenly, and rushed towards Xuemeng. Within the area covered by the Shurasi, Yabatian appeared and disappeared, fighting with the wild demon. If the human race's strongest seeds maintain this quality. Until now in the battle, Yabai seems to have used all kinds of methods, but in fact, most of them are paddling. Combining the natural power of the origin of greed, you can use the unique move of the golden dragon of greed. Killer. No solution. I've been waiting for you. Huang Emo felt that the most powerful demon god would definitely win. He didn't have any mood swings and even felt like laughing. And being despised by your enemies is not a bad thing. But Yabai's figure appeared on the road where the wild demon attacked, holding a brass version of the power of nature, and growled. Greedy lust. Obviously, Yabai also felt the other party's contempt. The combat power shown by Shura can rival most 9th level war gods. The wild demon felt strange. If he could really seize the opportunity to seriously injure or even kill the opponent, Yabai would definitely not miss it.